Welcome back second year to the third video lesson of the healthy organs topic. Take some time to re-familiarise yourself with the icons on this slide because you'll be seeing them throughout this video. Let's get our jotters opened up, and at the top of a brand new page put today's date in the margin and take the title as the heart. The heart is a vital organ that pumps blood around the body. It is made up of specialised muscle tissue called cardiac muscle. And what's really important about this cardiac muscle is that it doesn't tire like other muscles do. Here we have a heart diagram. I've also placed this diagram in the file section of our team so that you can print it out and stick it into your jotter. The heart has 4 chambers. We have the left and right atria, or atrium in the singular, and we have the left and right ventricles down the bottom here. Now it's important to remember that when you are looking at this diagram, it has been flipped. Okay, now what I mean by that is that the right atrium and the right ventricle are actually on the left hand side of this picture. So this diagram is, if you can imagine someone standing directly in front of you facing towards you, this is the way that their heart would be. The right side of the heart receives deoxygenated blood, i.e. blood that isn't carrying any oxygen in it, from the body and sends that blood towards the lungs to pick up oxygen. The oxygenated blood then travels to the left hand side of the heart from the lungs. The left side of the heart then pumps that blood all around your body. Because of this, the left hand side of the heart is made of much thicker muscle. Your heart pumps blood around the body all the time, about 5 litres of it constantly, and that is called your circulation.
The circulatory system is an example of an organ system, and its role is to transport oxygen and nutrients to our body's tissues. This organ system relies on 3 main things: the blood, which carries the all-important oxygen and nutrients, the blood vessels, which hold that blood, and the heart, which pumps the blood to keep it moving through the vessels. In this video, we'll take a closer look at the structure and the function of the heart. Then in 2 separate videos, we'll take a look at the vessels and the blood. As you can see from this image, you can actually think of the circulatory system as a double circulatory system, because there are 2 distinct loops. One of them carries deoxygenated blood from the heart to the lungs, where it gains oxygen and then flows back to the heart, while this other one carries that oxygenated blood to the rest of the body, where it gives up its oxygen to the tissues, becoming deoxygenated, and then flows back to the heart, to start all over again. Taking a closer look at the heart though, we can see that it consists of 1, 2, 3, 4 chambers, with thick muscular walls surrounding them, and then veins and arteries coming in and out. Now, whenever you're looking at an image of the heart, like we are here, it's as if you're looking at another person from their front. So their left side of the heart is actually on our right, and their right side is on our left. Pretty much all of the diagrams of the heart that you come across are drawn in this way. So just remember that the left side is on our right, and the right side is on our left. You also need to know that the top chambers are called atria, with an individual one being called an atrium, and the bottom chambers are ventricles. Between the chambers and the vessels, we find valves, which prevent the blood from flowing backwards, ensuring that it always flows in the right direction. Let's take a look at the path that the blood takes as it passes through the heart. First, blood flows into the heart via the vena cava and the pulmonary vein. From these, it flows into the right atrium and left atrium, respectively. Blood from the pulmonary vein has just come from the lungs and so is oxygenated, whilst the blood in the vena cava is returning from the loop around the body and so is deoxygenated. Then, as the two atria contract together, they push the blood into the ventricles. And just an instant later, the two ventricles contract and push the blood out into the pulmonary artery, which travels to the lungs, and the aorta, which feeds the rest of the body. At the same time, the atria will refill with new blood, and the whole cycle will repeat. In fact, this cycle repeats around 70 times a minute, which is over 100,000 times each day. To keep this beat steady, we have a group of cells in the right atrium that act as a pacemaker. And these pacemaker cells produce small electrical impulses, which spread through the muscular walls of the heart, causing them to contract. In some rare cases, though, these pacemaker cells don't work properly. To fix this, doctors can implant an artificial pacemaker, which is a small device that we place just under the skin above the heart, and has a wire that can carry an electrical current down to the heart, telling it to contract regularly, just like healthy, functioning pacemaker cells would. Now, to clear up any confusion, we just wanted to point out that the term artery refers to any vessel that carries blood away from the heart, while a vein is any vessel that carries blood to the heart. Often, students get confused and think that the arteries have to carry oxygenated blood, and veins have to carry deoxygenated blood. Although this is the case most of the time, it's not always true. For example, the pulmonary artery here carries deoxygenated blood, but it's still an artery because it carries blood away from the heart. While the pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood, but it is a vein because it's carrying blood to the heart. One last thing before we finish is that the heart also needs its own supply of oxygenated blood, and it gets this from small arteries that branch off the aorta, called coronary arteries. These vessels encircle the heart to make sure that the muscle tissue gets all of the oxygen and nutrients that it needs. And that's everything you need to know about the heart. If you found it useful, then please do share it with your friends, and we'll see you next time.
In your jotter, take the new subheading heart valves. The heart has valves that stop blood flowing back into the atria when the ventricles contract. On the diagram over here, we can see that the valves are these blue bits here and here. Okay, so these are our valves. So they close between the atria and the ventricles to stop the backflow of blood. Now that ensures that blood always flows in the correct direction through the heart. We've reached your first task for this lesson, second year. So what I want you to do is pause this video and answer these 6 questions about the heart in your jotter. Make sure that you're answering in full sentences so when you look back on your notes you can understand what it is you're writing. So question 1, what is the function of the heart? 2, what is the heart made of? 3, how many chambers does the heart have? 4, what are the function of heart valves? So what is their job? 5, why is the left side of the heart more muscular than the right side? And 6, which instrument can we use to listen to the heart? And there might be a hint for that on this page.
In our last video, we introduced the circulatory system, and saw how the heart acts as the system's pump. In this video though, we'll take a closer look at the blood vessels, specifically the arteries, capillaries, and veins. To quickly summarize, the arteries carry blood away from the heart. The capillaries exchange nutrients and oxygen with the tissues, and veins carry the blood back to the heart. As you take a closer look at each, the key thing to notice is how the structure of each type of vessel is related to its function. As arteries carry blood directly from the heart, the blood inside them is going to be at really high pressures, because it's just been pumped out of the ventricles. In order to bear these high pressures, the arteries need to be both strong and elastic. And to achieve this, they have a thick layer of muscle tissue to keep them strong, and a thick layer of elastic tissue so that they can stretch and recoil. These two layers, though, mean that the wall of the artery is quite thick when compared to its lumen, which is what we call the hole or space in the middle of the vessel. Once the arteries have transported the blood to the different parts of the body, it enters the capillaries. These vessels are really small and come into close contact with all of the cells in our body. Their role is to exchange substances with our cells, giving them useful nutrients and oxygen, and taking away waste products like carbon dioxide. If we take a closer look at a single capillary, we can see how they're adapted to this function. For example, their walls are only a single cell thick, and they're also permeable, which means that substances can easily diffuse through them. Because they're so tiny, the lumen of an individual capillary is also tiny. But there are so many of them that their total cross-sectional area, which is just the area of all the capillaries added together, is actually huge, far higher than for arteries. This means that the pressure of the blood is much lower than in the arteries, and so it flows more slowly, which gives the blood time to exchange things with the tissues. Finally, these tiny capillaries start to join up into larger vessels called veins, which transport the blood back to the heart. Veins are relatively large, with by far the biggest lumens of any blood vessels. They also have relatively thin walls, with only small layers of elastic fibers and smooth muscle. This works fine though, because the blood that they carry is at very low pressures, so the walls don't need to be very strong. The important thing to remember about veins though is that they have valves, which prevent blood from flowing backwards, ensuring that it always flows towards the heart. Before we finish, let's quickly cover how to calculate the rate of blood flow. A typical question could look something like this. 2,560 ml of blood passes through the aorta, which is the big artery that leaves the heart, in 8 minutes. Calculate the rate of blood flow through the aorta in milliliters per minute. So in a question like this, we would just divide how much blood has flowed, so 2,560, by the time it took, so 8 minutes, which gives us 320 milliliters per minute. And that's all for the blood vessels. If you haven't seen our other videos on the heart and the blood yet, we put the links for those in the description below. Otherwise, cheers for watching, and we'll see you next time.
I hope you paid close attention to that video, second year, because you need to fill out this table using the information from it. So what I want you to do is, I've given you the 3 types of blood vessel we're looking at, and I want you to tell me a little bit about the structure of them and the job, the function that they perform. In your jotter, take the heading coronary heart disease. Coronary heart disease, or CHD, is one of the biggest killers in Scotland. In fact, it has been the leading cause of death in Scotland for the past several years, although mortality rates have been decreasing over the past decade. In CHD, the coronary arteries are narrowed by a build-up of fatty substances which interrupt blood flow to the heart. So in this diagram, you can see the normal blood flow through the coronary artery here, and then we can see some fat starting to build up and blood flow starting to be impacted. As it gets worse, as the fat build-up gets worse, the blood passage narrows, and when the blood supply to part of the heart becomes completely blocked off, like in this image, the result is a sudden and potentially fatal heart attack, because the blood cannot reach the muscle, and so the muscle starts to die. Task 3 is a coronary heart disease information poster. So I want you to create a poster on CHD You can use one page in your jotter, you can create it in a Word document, a single PowerPoint slide. It is entirely up to you. And what you're going to do is you'll just upload this poster with your lesson 3 jotter work into the same assignment. So these are the things that your poster must have, okay? You must describe what CHD is. You must talk about the risk factors of CHD. So who is more likely to get CHD and why? You must talk about the symptoms that people might feel they might be displaying if they've got CHD, and also discuss some treatment options for CHD. We have now completed this video lesson on the heart. The work that I want you to do for the end of this timetable lesson is to 1. Complete all the work in this video, including taking notes and completing the numbered tasks. 2. Before the class is over, make sure you upload a photo of your jotter work into the lesson 3 jotter work assignment. And 3. Complete the lesson 3, the heart quiz, which you will also find under the assignments tab. That's the lesson finished for today, second years. Now remember, when you are timetabled to be in science, I will be on the team during that time. So if you need to speak to me or ask me about anything, just pop a quick message in the question and answer channel. Make sure that you are tagging me using the @ key so that I get a notification that you've posted a message. Have a good day.